Since we're all present and ready, let's get this thing started. Calling to order the December 10th, 2025 HPC meeting. We start with our roll call as listed on our agenda. Kayla?
Here.
Fred?
Here.
Nora?
Here.
Myself, present obviously. Dusty?
Here.
Melissa?
Here.
And Patrick?
Here.
Very good. Thank you all for coming. Are there any changes to our agenda for this evening?
No, I changed it enough on you guys already. So thank you for your patience with me. Hopefully everyone had some time to review this stuff, but I have not made any changes since yesterday.
All right, then can we get a motion to adopt for this evening, please?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
And a second?
I second that.
Thank you. Brings us to approving the minutes from November. Does anybody have any notes?
Yeah, I noticed in A, there's an extra C in Melissa's last name, I believe.
Yep. Did anyone else record the voting for the adoption of the agenda? Because I had something different than what was in the notes. I just wanted to double check. No? Okay. I had written down that it was Patrick and then second by Morton, but I don't know if it really matters, as long as two people did it.
I see in the discussion action item for Pam's reimbursement, it just says approved. Should there be some sort of note that we had a roll call vote?
Yeah, it should say unanimously.
Yeah.
And during the discussion of that reimbursement, I did take note that Louise said he would look into the online record keeping of minutes. That should be noted, and we can follow up with that.
Yes, I did not get very far with it.
I thought also we should have some recording in H for commissioner comments, since we kind of discussed for a while the Arcadia Creek resurfacing project. And Pam pointing out how the HPC had been consulted on city projects in the past. And Louise noting that right-of-way would only affect environment or feeling for potential historic designations.
Best case scenario, I guess I'll say.
Any other notes? All right, can we get a motion to approve the minutes as amended this evening?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Patrick. And a second?
Second.
Melissa beat ya, Fred. Were there any public comments submitted prior to this evening?
There were not.
Pam, do you have any this evening? Of course. Please approach the bench.
If it says, oh, it's working now. Thank you. Thank you. I was looking, you'll need to come back to this when it comes up on the agenda, but I don't want to have to hop up every time that there's a discussion. For your next year's meeting schedule, you might want to consider your planning meeting and where that's going to be, if it's going to be in between regular meetings and when, sometime after July, but before November. And Another thing for an item that will come up later, I didn't see any budgets come through for our draft work plan goals 3 or 4, so they are not included in my O'Connor work plan. And so as those come in, there was one for Nora that I just saw today for the first day that I will plug in, but I think there may be some expenses related to those other 2 goals that I don't have yet, and because we have a finite amount of money set aside for the commission's work, we'll need to make sure that works, and maybe we'll have to vote on them later, depending on what happens. Number 3, the note about the update for Imagine Kalamazoo 2035. This is just a general question, how does the work of this commission fit into that plan? You don't necessarily need to respond, but if you have an answer, that's fine too, but more just for thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that you're pushing the lengths of my memory bank here. So last year, or maybe even the year before, there was a call that went out, I think, to look for folks to get interested in doing work with this, with Imagine Kalamazoo. I know that I had someone from the Historic District Commission that was on a kind of a partners, I want to use the right terminology, especially if Christina's watching, but I think like a partners group, like a focus group. I don't think that we had anyone from this commission necessarily that joined that.
Right.
A, I think that there's still time then B, to incorporate preservation work in general into Imagine Kalamazoo 2035. I'm certain of that. I don't know if it'll get down to the granular level of looking at the different commissions and the work that they do, or if it'll be more historic preservation and its role in the city of Kalamazoo.
Yeah.
I can't definitively speak to that at this time.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure it was on everyone's radar, and I appreciate that. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. That brings us into our reports. E, starting with financial, with the spreadsheets.
We always get here so fast, you know. Excuse me. Okay, so I don't think much of a change from last year when I look at the expenditures. If we're looking at the 2 sheets, expenditures and the spreadsheet for the balance, I need to zoom in to look at this as well. Excuse me while I look. The only change, I guess, that I would note, I think, would be the payment out to Pam. And Pam, has that come out to you yet or no?
I'm sorry, it's hard to hear you.
Has the payment come out to you for the reimbursement for the, okay, so there'll be no difference then posted on these sheets as they look from the previous month.
I think you might owe her an apology.
Why is that?
I think you shorted her about $2.
So we don't get to pay taxes. So that's I guess something to note to folks too, is that taxes will not be reimbursed. So.
I just noticed the difference was, in the minutes from last time versus the amount in her email.
I know, I apologize. Thank you, Kyle.
At least it's a good explanation, not just a clerical error.
No, I was ready for that one. That was drummed into my head when we were talking about it. So there should not be any other changes besides that because we have not spent any money. Happy to entertain any questions.
Very good. I catch that.
Any questions or comments on the financials at this time? Then let's move on to the Preservation Month report as submitted by Nora and reviewed by Melissa and myself.
Yeah, this is our plan. The three of us worked on it together, and we're looking forward to making it happen next year. At the bottom, you'll see like our total that will require approval in January, as noted. But
And then Luis, is it clear from the term budget that it's always to be up to, or do we need to specifically state that in all these documents?
I think to me, the word budget itself is clear enough, and I think we're okay. I think that it would be really, I think we're okay. It'd be a very odd thing to be like, you have to spend this exact amount of money, even if we didn't need
Well,
to.
no, obviously
yeah.
not that, but
So I think up to is implied through budget,
cool.
but thank you for asking.
So we will take input on possible speakers if we choose to go that route, if anyone has suggestions. All right. The next report is from the Community Engagement Subcommittee.
yeah, I can talk about this too. So we don't have a lot of changes from last month, but we did kind of officially make our final edits to the groups and organizations that we're going to be reaching out to, which is included here, as well as the folder with all of the letter, content. So we're looking forward to sending that in after the first of the year. Well, a lot to come in January.
Does the city still have a letter stuffing and postage machine?
If we do, I don't know where it is.
It used to be in the basement of this building.
You know about it, and I don't. No, I've never done that before.
I only know about it because I worked for the city like 20 years ago, and I'm the one who assembled it 20 years ago. But it may be way beyond the useful life of this, and they may have not replaced it.
Okay. These are great opportunities for me to bond with my coworkers otherwise, but we can look into it. I think the biggest, there's only 92, it looks like, addressees to go out. You don't have to lick them or anything, so that's not an issue. It's just getting them folded up that takes a little bit of time, and then making sure you can do some kind of mail merge on them so it works right. I will look into this machine, though. That sounds very interesting.
It was in the basement of this building at one point, but like I said, that was 20 years ago.
I'll still look into it.
So is the city sending these then?
Yeah, we can handle sending these.
All right. The garden bed report submitted by Fred.
Okay, the background's explained on the printout there. Basically, there are going to be 3 separate planting ceremonies of the 3 sisters, corn, beans, and squash, in the Bronson Park garden over here, one of the peacock gardens. And it'll be late April, early May. I think those 3 different plantings will be. What we would like to know is that the KHPC would like to endorse the project, not financially, but with the backing and publicity and an awareness of it. And they plan to put the people that were sponsors or endorsers of the project on a written report. So I guess that's what we're coming to the board asking for, would be that kind of endorsement of the project. Yeah, that's the main gist of what we're asking. I don't know what that involves as far as having the committee endorse it. Saying we're going to endorse it or
I don't know. You're the one who goes to the meetings.
that's the way I would go about it, but I don't know if there's a more formal, or would everybody have to be in agreement to endorse the project? That would be the democratic way to do it.
Any publicity is good publicity.
So Fred, my understanding originally was that they weren't sure about plantings and the sign was going to be a temporary sign. Has this moved to a permanent installation?
I believe it's not going to be permanent, the last I heard.
Okay, so I'm not sure if that could be heard. So you're saying the sign is not going to be permanent and the planting
I
is a
think the
one-year
sign-
project?
Sign has a chance to be permanent, but the garden won't be permanent.
Okay, so it's strictly for next year.
It's like a one-year ceremonial thing is
Okay.
what I heard.
So what might an endorsement from us look like? Just a statement here, or what might that look like?
I've never endorsed something from a committee. I'm sorry? Yeah, I've never endorsed something from a committee.
It sounds like that could look like a statement maybe on a press release. We don't really have an internet presence per se to say this is, we endorse this. I think it's a really cool project. I'm curious how that really aligns with what we focus on. And if that's a naive question, I apologize.
Well, I think the Preservation Commission's expanded in the years I've been on it from looking at buildings and preserving buildings to preserving places and cultural things. And that's been a big change I've seen on the board in the last 6 years. So if that's the way we're headed, I'd see that it fits what we're trying to do.
So I guess that endorsement looks like, if it's not a permanent installation, the sign may be, but the garden is not. So we're saying they're asking for the commission to endorse an
event.
acknowledgement of this history of these beds, which is a really unique
Endorsing-
part of Kalamazoo history.
And endorsing an event.
Endorsing the event, not the actual activity. I mean, not the
endorse
garden per se.
this particular event.
Okay.
So like we might send a letter to the Kalamazoo in Bloom organization?
That would be formal. I don't know what kind of publicity the board can generate about it, getting the information out about the event. I don't know if there's some avenue of doing that.
The way I've seen that with other things, other projects, is a group may write a letter saying, this is something that's happening. It's part of, Kalamazoo history. I don't know that it really ties into preservation per se, but yes, we would have, I'm not sure if there's an actual, that looks to me like another committee writing this letter. That maybe go to community engagement. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure where that fits in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also talking a lot, but I'm not really sure how that fits.
Monica also said that you might know something about the Portage event with the 3 fires.
Yes, that
happened
is
in
actually moving ahead, and those signs are going in 2026. I don't have the exact information, but I can get that. But yes, they are definitely moving ahead with I think it's in Celery Flats is where they're putting in their sign about the beds.
Okay.
Is this something where we send out an announcement to the people we have, like, on our email list for ahead of the ceremonies, just to say that they're happening? And is that some way that we could support?
That would be definitely publicity. Is that something we want to put on that list, that group of people? I'm on the community engagement committee, so I'd say yes. It's something we'd want to do. But that's because I'm on the garden bed committee too, is why I would.
No, I think you guys have it.
I was just going to say, I don't think I'd have any problem with that. If that is something that they would welcome and we could support, if that's what they want.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's hitting it right on the head there. That would really help.
Gosh, I hate to be the wet blanket, man. So first, I would want to check. The word endorsement just inherently makes me very nervous as a government employee, that we would be endorsing anything in any capacity. I don't know if that's a unfounded or founded anxiety, but I will look into that for you all. The other things that I want to understand is like, what was the nature of the request for us to endorse this? That's something that I'm not understanding. So I would want to understand why Kalamazoo and Bloom was asking the Historic Preservation Commission to endorse this and what they're expecting to come of an endorsement. Well, I do recognize, Fred, that you've been involved with this. I don't think that necessarily, and you are a member of the HPC. I don't know what other work the HPC has been done in relation to the project would be my first thing. Endorsements make me nervous because I don't want anyone to think that we're playing favorites with any of these groups. And when we look at other things, so we can look at our community engagement, that is work that we are doing. It's not like we are pushing another group's work. Pushing might be strong language, and I apologize. The other thing is, I recognize that other external groups might do things differently, but I'm not sure that they're governmental bodies that are doing this kind of press releases for as an endorsement of another body's work, right? I would not want any, trying to be sensitive with my language, I would not want any other groups in the community that do similar work to feel that they're being excluded because we endorse one particular group. So that is my hesitation, and I will explore it, and I can explore it with folks above me in the city to see if it's something appropriate or not.
Okay, instead of endorse, publicize the event. Is that more palatable?
I would still want to look, and I know that we're splitting hairs now and we start to look at semantics of this, but I think that both of those are something that they make me a little bit nervous to say that we'd be endorsing or publicizing an external group's work.
Putting it on your personal calendar and planning on attending, is that?
So that's completely different.
Something that.
That's different, right? Okay. So, yeah.
So that's what I'm requesting too, is that we're aware of that and know what's coming on. To use it or not? Okay, I have for a couple times.
Yes, so I think that we can certainly, I should just have the date right in front of me. Once we get the date, and I don't see the date necessarily in the report that you wrote. Another thing is that if you find the date of it, I guess that it would be in a report if you published a report, right? So there's that. I'm not trying to skirt any regulations or anything, but if you figured out the date and you put it in this, the reports are public that come from the HPC. So that is another thought to have. I don't see it in the report that you wrote. I know this still might be a little bit early. Once I get the date, I'm more than happy to attend. So
I think March is when they plan to have a firm date for the spring planning.
And this is happening on city property.
It's happening on Bronson's property, yeah.
Bronson Park is technically not city property, so we can figure that whole thing out another time. Bronson Park is owned by the county and leased to the city of Kalamazoo.
Interesting.
Very interesting. So, yeah. People want a really fun rabbit hole, and I'll just give this diversion to a wonderful rabbit hole that I went down recently. There is surrounding the naming of Bronson Park, like in the late 1890s, there was some guy who came out and said that Bronson actually didn't donate any of the land to the city, and that caused a huge, well, I know. It was, that spawned a lot of ill will towards Mr. Bronson. They're fun newspaper articles to read if you ever have the chance. The paper Titus Bronson, Friend or Fraud was written by a Kalamazoo College student, and that is located in the local history room if you ever wanted to peruse it in a bound version. I don't have the reference number, but it's an interesting paper. If you look that same paper up online, you will not have the first page of annotations, or you won't have the first page of the bibliography, which is really frustrating, so you have to go into the library and look at it in its physical form. But yes, interesting read nonetheless. I digress.
So I guess I could speak for the Kalamazoo and Bloom and say the reason we want KHPC to endorse it is to publicize the event and attend the event.
I can look into what surrounds endorsement, what is permitted from a city a subcommittee and what is not.
I'm unsure if it helps or makes it more muddy, but I believe that the Portage dedication is going to be part of America 250, which of course is, we haven't really discussed America 250 too much on this committee. So that kind of also goes back to, is it something we should really be offering our collective voice into? Or conversely, is it a positive? Because we haven't really at this point discussed the America 250 events. So.
Good point. So pending further investigation. On to the graphics and written explanation for the changes to the O'Connor Fund to a field of interest with advisory committee.
Getting into the fun stuff now. Pam, I don't know if you want to say anything about this or if you want me to run it down. Completely up to you. Okay. So we do have quite a few documents in here. These are some of the things that we included kind of at the 11th hour for you guys. I guess just background and top level things is this has been something that's been going on, we've been working on and thinking about for a while now to understand how can we facilitate the ease of expending funds for us, right? I think that we all on this commission realized that we had some changes that happened recently where the Kalamazoo Community Foundation couldn't directly spend the funds. They needed to be passed through the city and then spent, and that added a little bit of a wrinkle for us when we were trying to spend it. This is all news to me, and it still kind of is news and rocket science to me, to be completely honest with you. But that's why we have the folks at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation and Pam, so thank you, Pam, that work on making more elegant solutions so we can make spending the money a little bit easier. I know that sounds really rudimentary, but I think we all know we want to give this money out to the community, and we want to make that as easy as we can, and we also want to make it as smooth as we can for the recipients of the money, right? I think that that's the end goal for all of this. So, all of that being said, I'm going to, hopefully all these documents are in some kind of logical order. If we look at the OCON Fund Explainer, which is the first document included, the one that's up on the screen right now, what was proposed was moving some money, some of the spendable money, up into a non-endowed field of interest, that's FOI, with advisory committee, you guys being the advisory committee. This is kind of a lot of fancy language, I think, for a little bit of a restructuring of the money, so it does not need to pass back through the city of Kalamazoo to be spent. If I'm missing or if I'm glossing over things, I'm sure that Pam can also add a little bit of additional information, but I was really grateful that we have such a good relationship with the Kalamazoo Community Foundation, and they were able to look at this stuff for us and come up with this, because if it hasn't been evident in these meetings, it's been kind of a head scratcher to figure out how we're going to do this. So that's the big, broad level picture, and if anyone has questions now.
Yes, I've got questions.
Yes.
In this advisory fund, will the money remain invested while it's in it? Or is this like a checking account?
It will still remain invested, yes.
Okay. Does it have the same kind of guardrails that flowing money through the city might, like, for example, the sales tax exemption and stuff like that?
It's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that one, Pam.
I think I do.
Okay.
Because the money is being passed to nonprofit organizations, I think sales tax is not an issue at all.
Okay, I guess I'm thinking about,
Clarifying remark too, maybe this will help. So we are now, in essence, to borrow some parlance from other people who speak about this stuff to me often, we're going to be creating, in essence, two buckets. I guess we could look at them. The FOI is for charitable giving. It would be for grants and micro grants. I think I'm using the right language there, but it would be for the granting programs that we've created. The other, like any operational expenses that we have, is going to stay the old normal way. This just allows us to more quickly release the funds for grants.
Okay.
The FOI
That
does.
makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. My one other question was, does this mean we need to be rewriting our gifting policy? Because it was based on balances that we had in spendable accounts just for O'Connor 2. And if that's the case, then we should probably be reworking that in.
You're going right down the same path I took in my own head last
Okay.
week, because we had a specific conversation with them about the difference between grants and gifts as we define them.
Yes.
They don't use the term gift ever. Everything, whether it's, that's why they've changed, why the name has been changed to mini grant from gift.
Okay.
Because they don't do gifts. And that's the legal way that they work. Like a lot of this other stuff, a lot of it is boilerplate stuff.
Sure.
So yes, we may have to look at that, although Luis and I put our heads together for a good long time and tried to figure out how to make sure that the percentages of each of the O1 and O2 funds that are going into this new fund will not be devastated or hurt by what we're about to do. And within our realm of knowledge right now, that's not going to be an issue.
I think the short answer, too, if you guys wanted to rewrite some of the things in the documents that we have internally, you certainly could, just to address the new structure.
In the request, the field of interest fund document?
No, in our kind of spending policy,
Oh, yes.
internal to us. If
Right.
we could address those changes, certainly. It'd be
Yeah.
premature to do so now, because we still have to execute the documents, but I think that would be certainly be a great cover for ourselves, right? To say, okay, we got everything buttoned up, and it actually matches one-to-one to the way that the money will be spent. Shouldn't be too difficult, though, because again, all we're doing is kind of moving. The funds should be the same. You might have to do a little bit of addition because we'll move some of the O'Connor 1 and, the O'Connor 2 funds over, but it shouldn't be drastically different, and it should only be addition. No division or multiplication or anything like that.
Okay, yeah, we should just clean it up to make sure it's clear to the future
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
commissioners. Yep, okay.
Any other questions on this portion? No. Okay. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, and we'll come back to the 12, 10, 25 O'Connor Fund report, because I want to go to the addendum next. So this is what our friends over at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation, who have had to rebrand themselves recently, I don't know if people have noticed. The HDC definitely noticed, because they came to the HDC for a new sign, the new sign that they have. So this is the meat and potatoes of it then, right? This is a document that needs to get signed, in essence, to create, to create the new field of interest fund. You can see the list of signatories at the bottom: Pam O'Connor, Terry O'Connor, Patsy Moore, who's the interim city manager, and myself. We wanted to give this to you guys to give you a heads up of what's going on, obviously, as the advisors of the fund moving forward as well, and keep you apprised of the situation. I assume that folks have had time to read it, and if we have questions regarding this as well, please do let me know. Pam, if you have anything to interject also, please feel free.
Well, just let me say, there's a lot here to take in. So, but we asked the question multiple times, is the value of the funds, whether there are 2 or 3, going to change at all? And they are not, unless we start letting some of it go finally. You'll notice in the report later that we have a gift and a grant and a mini grant, what is now known as a mini grant, encumbered for spending perhaps this coming year. We hope this coming year, as well as planning for some this coming year, some new ones this coming year. A lot of this is boilerplate. I want to just really send forward again a big thanks to the Community Foundation. They literally were treading on new ground. They have never had this kind of a question come to them before, and were consulting both their in-house legal staff to make sure we were doing everything right, as well as going to the Council of Michigan Foundations to get their blessing for what we're doing. So everything's good. They are very comfortable. I can't say thanks enough to the philanthropic staff there. our advisors and some of the finance staff for the work that they've done the last couple of months.
Very helpful, because I can't speak for Pam, but I would not have been able to figure it out myself, so. Pam asks a lot of good questions, and I am concerned that they get a lot of blank stares from me, but that's why we have a team to work on this. Looking at this letter, the first bullet point, just to break it down for you guys one more time too, so the first bullet point in the new letter serves to say, initially, we've been using the term, it's kind of like if you were looking at making bread, sourdough dough, right? We need to initially feed the new field of interest fund. So the first bullet point is how much we're going to initially feed it. The second bullet point deals with how much we're going to feed it in perpetuity, more or less, right? So we don't want to drive the folks at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation crazy. So we felt that these numbers were comfortable. We were comfortable with these numbers. It's not that these are completely immovable, but we do not want to drive them crazy again. So this is what it would be kind of in the future, again, beginning in 2026 and every year thereafter. That's how much money would be going into the FOI fund, the Field of Interest Fund, to feed it. Those are really the meatiest parts, in my opinion. A lot of it is boilerplate, necessary boilerplate language, but the first two deal with how much money is going to go into it initially to feed it, and then how much is going to go in after next year to feed it. Any questions about that?
Let me just add that they're not charging us any more money to monitor and manage these 3 accounts. That was a big deal too.
Does that bring us to the next letter?
Yep, so I'm going to go now down to the LOD O'Connor grant making, which is the last. I don't know how everyone else is looking at this. I'm in the view where I can see all the attachments. This is, I guess I forgot now what LOD stands for. Is this the letter of?
Letter of direction.
Direction, got you. Thank you all. Again, I hope that folks had a chance to read over this. This is another necessary document. Signatories on this one are Patsy Moore and myself, so the interim city manager of the city of Kalamazoo and myself. This serves as the direction for the established fund, correct? So people know in the future what to use it, what it should be used for, and how to use it.
So does their board have to decide on every grant we make then? Because it kind of sounds like.
For the Field of Interest Fund, yes, they do. That's because of the type and the rights that they have to write the checks directly to the grantees. That comes with the territory, yes.
So that is a
But
change from current operations, just clarifying.
it would not, we would make the recommendation to them just like we have in the past, and to get the money, and they would write the check rather than sending the money to the city and then having the city have to write the check.
But we do not anticipate that the Kalamazoo Community Foundation's board.
Like they're not going to have their own meeting to evaluate our recommendations or something?
They will, yes, but you are the official advisory committee, and they will take your word for it, unless you don't exist, or unless some other sort of catastrophic thing happens and you are no longer able to make decisions. They do have the right, they own all the funds in the future, as they do now, and these are the terms that they need to use for a field of interest fund.
We do not foresee this being a hindrance to charitable giving, though, in any
No,
capacity. While
not
it is
at
a
all.
change, I don't think that it would be any more cumbersome than the process that we currently exist within. So
Less.
I was being diplomatic.
I would also say that in most cases, we asked them to allow you to be the decision makers and the advisory committee, and they just said absolutely yes, that you know more about preservation than they do. That is also why we asked them to, if this or the Historic District Commission no longer exist, that they consult with a historic preservation subject matter expert before they make decisions on giving away historic fund or funds from the O'Connor Fund for historic preservation.
There's no questions there. We can jump back up to the KHPC O'Connor Fund report.
Oh.
Shall I take it away?
Please.
Okay. I got everything in this that I could, including adding a goal. That was for, sorry, I jumped over to the work plan. A couple of the things that, if you didn't see it on the explainer early, that I added at the very last end when I recount what is in the two funds, we have an additional $16,571 coming into the O2 account at the end of the year, and an additional almost $2,800 coming into the O1 account. And I think there's nothing else there that we haven't talked about already.
I did have a question under goal 3, other operating expenses. Is that covering the Kalamazoo Community Foundation's fees, or what is that plan for?
Are you talking about the draft work plan now? Goal 3?
Yeah, sorry, did I jump
Yeah.
ahead already?
That is the commission's work, and that is money that will come to the city for the work that the subcommittees are doing.
Okay.
For example, we'll put the Preservation Month budget in there. I didn't have the figure in time enough to put it in there, but the total, it will remain $20,000 because that's what we agreed to set aside for your work this coming year. Are there any other questions about the new field of interest fund at this point? Okay.
So next things will be then that I'll move tomorrow to get those documents executed so we can get the field of interest fund created.
Right.
I appreciate everyone's, again, patience with me for sending out a barrage of documents to you pretty close to the meeting. It's just the nature of the beast, I think, that we needed to get this turned around quickly. So I appreciate everyone's willingness to work with us on this.
I do too. Thank you. Do you want me to go right into the work plan for the O'Connor Fund? Was there something else on the agenda before that?
Meeting schedule for next year, but that's just a list of
Okay.
dates.
I can sit. You want to do it?
We just, is it for our record and making it public? Or if anyone has any issues, they
You
can
guys
let
have
you
to
know.
vote on it to approve it, and then I'll tell this will go very quick though, Pam, since we're already talking about it. The only change that I wanted to point out to folks is that April 8th meeting, it's in the community room. There was a conflict with the planning commission, so I just said, hey, we can move over into the community room. Otherwise, pretty standard stuff.
Okay.
And January is a little later because of the holiday,
Is it?
or no?
Must be.
We don't want to meet on New Year's Day.
Now you had me worried that I
can't
put
speak
the
for
wrong
the
date
rest of you.
down. 1 second.
And the 14th is the second Wednesday.
Yep.
Okay.
So if we can get a quick vote on that for approval, then we can move on to the next one, Pam.
Do we need to do a roll call for that?
We can just do a voice vote for it. It'll be fine.
Everybody say aye.
Aye.
Someone needs to make a motion to approve.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the scheduled meeting dates for 2026.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay. Now, all those in favor can say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And the yeses have it, so thank you.
So I'm going to assume you're not going to set a separate date for your planning meeting?
These are our regular meetings.
Okay. Well, it's a meeting schedule. Yeah, okay.
It is for the regular meetings. This is not something that I remember having to do the first couple years that I was here, but it's come into this is something they ask us to do now, I think just to get everything buttoned away. Leave it up to you guys if you want to look to make a special date for the other one or not. Leave it up to you guys.
If we're going to discuss that, I would vote for September as being that planning time.
That would be after July and before November.
Right in the middle.
So in lieu of,
I mean, either way, I just think September, it's enough after summer that people are back for the most part.
any objections?
Can you go to the committee, or the community room to do that meeting if you do it in September? Do you know?
Without a date, I can't tell. That's what makes it a little bit tricky at this, sorry, I don't know if the mic was working. Without a date, I can't really tell. So, I mean, we can make it in September for sure. But, and I think that there's a very high likelihood that we could get in. Are we saying that we want to do it on September 9th in the community room? Is that the understanding? In lieu of the regular meeting?
I'm agnostic there. I was just saying September would be a good month for this for me.
Yeah. You're leading the charge right now, man, so it sounds like, I think we could get the community room on September 9th, yes, but a little early to tell right now.
Well, any changes just need to be publicized with, what, a week's notice?
Yes.
We'll be fine.
Yes. Okay.
O'Connor Fund Work Plan?
Yes, please.
2026?
You're up.
So we're looking for approval here, both for goals 2 and then a reaffirmation of goal 3, because I have started to divide that out in terms of what we're voting on, and I have already said that I will add Nora's budget for Preservation Month in here, but because we don't have the other goals' budgets yet, those will have to be taken as they come. But one of the ideas was to not only have a good heads up as to how much you were spending on your subcommittee work, but also so we wouldn't have to come back and do individual approvals. You wouldn't have to come back and do individual approvals for each expense. Any questions? Wow.
That's awesome. Best case scenario. Wish it was always like this.
I guess then you need a motion, and I'm going to go sit down unless you have questions.
Thank you, Pam.
So no further input, we're just asking for a motion?
We need clarity on what the motion should be. Let me know.
Yeah, so are we approving the work plan or approving what?
They're tied together, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, for clarity's sake, I think we could use the work plan review memo, the first attachment. You could do both in one fell swoop if you wished. Approve the work plan as it relates to the O'Connor Fund and the expenditure of the $35,000 stipulated in the O'Connor Fund work plan items, however you want to word it.
Move to approve the 2026 O'Connor Fund work plan and the associated $35,000 budget for the O'Connor Fund.
Before we go forward with that, I know we have the two goals that do not have budgets stated yet. Do we need that before we move forward with this motion? Because we do have some numbers that aren't included as were stated.
So that's up to you guys. I also know that we wanted to have those numbers here before this meeting. So it is at your guys' discretion whether or not you would wish to move forward with doing so. I think that the entire notion that Pam put forward in drafting this was so we can alleviate some of the repetitive voting on expenditure of funds, right? So we don't have to go through that each time. These are the folks that put stuff in at this point, I think.
We can vote on the 35,000 for the grant-making fund today, and then as those are available, we can vote on those as well.
Okay, if that could be a separate vote, then I will take away my concern.
Yes.
And I guess I'll second your motion.
So we're just voting on the 35 right now? Sounds like it. Okay. Roll call for money. If you agree with the motion, say yes. Kayla?
Yes.
Fred?
Yes.
Nora?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Dusty?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Great. So we table other expenses for later proposal and voting.
And the plan, right?
What?
You're delaying the approval of the plan, right? Also?
Pam, if we're delaying the approval of the plan, you're speaking of the totality of the work plan then?
Right.
Yeah, so it would seem that way to me, yes.
Okay.
Does that require a second motion, or are we continuing?
I think, again, it's up to you guys. I think that you've made it I think the motion speaks for itself.
I mean, in order to do the split, we need to approve the plan, correct? Louise being very helpful.
Guess I need some clarification on that question. For the split, in what capacity? Or what split?
I mean, it's listed as goal 1 on the plan, so we need a second motion.
For what? I think that the question is, have we approved the totality of the Kalamazoo Historic Preservation Commission's work plan? No, right? It's not done. There's still funds, there's budget amounts that need to be given to us so we can more accurately plan for that. I'm also not sure, and other people could surely jump in if they wish to, that not having this approved would prohibit us from executing the split. I don't see what, I guess, the inherent value in approving constituent parts of a plan is, but if people disagree with me on that one, I'm more than happy to hear the opposition on it. As I said before, I do think that the timing surrounding moving forward the creation of the Field of Interest Fund at the Kalamazoo Community Foundation is imperative if we would like to get it done before October of 2026. It's the way that it is explained to me.
So Dusty, do you have further questions?
I suppose not. I just want to make sure we have that open door that we can adjust budget as our goals have those budgets suggested.
Any future spending would have to come from that budget line of operations, the 19,750?
Yeah.
Yes. And
But we,
I am not the arbiter of what can be spent and what cannot be spent either.
yeah, I think we can allocate that as additional budgets come in.
Okay, then I and then I'm not concerned.
So we need a new motion to approve the entire document?
This is the part that I'm not understanding, and I apologize. What are
The
we,
initial motion was to approve the 2026 O'Connor Fund work plan and associated.
So we're good?
I think that we're good, yes. If other people have concerns, I'm more than
Okay.
happy to hear them, though.
I'm just wanting to make sure we didn't miss anything.
No, I completely agree. And Pam, do you have any concerns moving forward? Okay.
And then we just had a document handed out to us. Did you have a copy that Pam might have?
I do. Pam, let me bring this down to you.
I could have made a paper airplane, but I wasn't sure that it would get to you. I have two right here, but thank you, Dusty.
So since I had a spot here on the agenda to talk, I wanted to hand out just my notes from the cemetery committee from this past year, just kind of talking about how far we got with some stuff. And I think overall, we put some really good foundations down. Clearly, the actual publication part did not occur, although it's a very solid start on that. I just want to give you guys an update. I know that there was some concern previously about how we were doing on these goals. So while I think the goals were pretty aggressive, I do not think we did a bad job. We did do a lot of community outreach, working with local groups, again, putting together a pretty good foundation for building tours, which will fall into Melissa's new group this year in 2026. Yeah, so I just kind of want to give you guys an update on what we did with that, which was, again, community outreach, working on a rough draft, kind of getting that solid foundation for finishing these projects in 2026. And what I did include in here was a summary of 2025, which was also on a personal note, the opportunities afforded to the Kalamazoo Historic Preservation Committee to have a positive outreach impact on the public is pretty strong. Our cemeteries are a direct, accessible link to our city's past and heritage. Maintaining visible and active presence in our cemeteries shows that Kalamazoo is invested in this unique aspect of preservation work. And I look forward to expanding opportunities next year in the form of working with the Associates of Gravestone Studies Conference, which is considering a tour of Riverside and Mountain Home, as well as the exciting opportunity to restore the Sexton House and Mountain Home. I do see our cemeteries continuing to have a bit of media presence in the press next year. The publications we're creating will have a long-lasting impact on how the public interacts with our cemeteries, and that's an exciting legacy we are creating. On a side note, I do have a budget, but I guess I will put that forward for the next meeting, which I do see as being pretty minimal because I don't expect huge publication to happen in 2026. I do have a question about our partnership with the Friends of Historic Kalamazoo Cemeteries. There was a talk of trying to help support them. Is that a side discussion that we should be having? Again, it's not in that line item for the budget.
I think, again, those discussions are commission discussions, right? So if you want to propose monetary support, which is what I'm guessing you're asking, monetary support for them, right?
Yes.
Okay, that would be something that would be posed to the commission. And
Okay.
I think, again, I really apologize that I'm not that good with the budget stuff. But, so if that's not something that we're seeing directly as a line item, then that's a discussion that you could have amongst the commission, I think, to figure out what we want to do and how we want to do that.
Okay. Is that better to bring up next month on the agenda?
And next year, but I don't see why not.
Okay.
There's nothing that's going to happen between now and then anyways. It's going to
Oh, yeah.
be busy time, so I don't think there's any harm in waiting until
Okay.
the January meeting to bring that up.
Okay, perfect. Then I think unless anyone has any questions on what I distributed, yeah, I think that's really what I wanted to cover.
We can, if you want to chat in the interim, you and I can.
Okay,
To
I would like that.
strategize and how we want to look at it.
Okay, thank
for
you,
the
I
commission
appreciate
as well.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do have that side interest, as you know, in what's happened with Sexton Lodge and that restoration.
Yes.
So I do feel like that kind of falls into this little category in a really rough way.
It's on my radar, but it's a couple years away. But
I
it
know.
is on my radar, so.
Okay. I don't know if I handled that topic as well as I should have, but that's what we all have. So, and I did tweak a little bit of the 2026 plan, which was distributed in email, if I need to talk about that very much or not. But yeah, I just added the additional non-publication goals with that. And I did add some dates on where I feel a more reasonable deadline for some items that can be accomplished in 2026.
So you're saying to look for an email about the goal? Was that what you're saying?
No, I was saying that the changes I made are in our packet, and if I need to go over that,
Okay.
I just threw you a wild card by giving you a document that my printer fought with me a lot. It would have been much prettier had my printer behaved, so I apologize, it's a little bit rough looking.
Not at all. I appreciate all you guys putting together reports and getting them to me, so. And bringing them to the meeting. Putting together stuff is always very much appreciated.
Pam, do you have a comment or question?
Forgive me if I missed it, but did you actually take a vote on the O'Connor Fund work plan and the $35,000 expenditure? Or did you did take a vote?
Yes.
I'm sorry I missed that.
No.
It's been a week, and it's not even been a week.
All right. Any questions for Dusty? Thank you for your report. That brings us to the coordinator's report.
We already there? Jeez. I think it's just this. This is what I'm reporting on. Whether you're going so fast. I can't talk that fast. I mean, I can talk that fast, but I'm not sure there'd be a lot of benefit. So I think what we're going to do, whoa, okay. I will have to have you click through for me a little bit here, but there shouldn't have to be any notes for this part. So I'm giving this presentation. It is not my presentation. This is something that, the city planner, Christina Anderson, and I think Laura Lamb and Rebecca Kick have all worked on together along with the community, right? These are kind of the strategic vision, and this is a portion of the master plan for the city of Kalamazoo. There will be opportunities, or I think we're always rather informal, so if you guys have questions and you want to ask them, feel free to. And we can dive right in. So you can go to the next slide. This is just a brief overview of what we're going to talk about throughout it, obviously. So some of the IK 2035 is Imagine Kalamazoo 2035 engagement and outreach that we've done, analysis and initial results of the input that we've gotten, the strategic framework that we're using to achieve a happy and healthy city, and that's, the goals that we're looking for with this iteration of the master plan is having a happy and healthy city, and then some of the next steps in the master planning process. Just so folks know too, it's required of us to have a master plan for, like, stretching my knowledge here, but for zoned communities, right? And this is something that when I started working as an AmeriCorps member with the city of Kalamazoo was really interesting to me, that we had a master plan, and it was something that was a document that we actually used, right? It wasn't just something that lived on a shelf, and I think that this is something that we should all be proud of in the city of Kalamazoo, that we have a master plan that is something that's used and referenced, and it's a document that doesn't just lay dormant on the shelf all the time. You can go to the next one, Heather. Will you click it? Sorry. Oh, I didn't even see it. Sorry, there might have been a delay. So this is kind of the timeline that shows what the process looks like, right, for making for the Imagine Kalamazoo process, right? It's really important, I think, that we know that this is our timeline, and that we have adjusted this timeline multiple times to make sure that we are giving ourselves the space that we need to engage the community. Saying that it's our timeline is, we're not necessarily beholden to other factors. This is something that we can shift if we need to, if we want to go back to the community and talk to folks, if we want to get some more input on the master plan. The city's master plan does not expire. It's in quotes in my notes, but until October 2027, so we do still have some time, and we have some wiggle room. The next few slides that we're going to go through is an update about the outreach and the engagement activities that we have gone through in the first 2 phases. If you could go to the next one, thank you. Okay, so imagine it is kind of the first phase that we saw on that timeline, right? And this is the big, broad questions. What was transformative over the last 10 years if we look back to the Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 master plan? What remains an obstacle or a challenge for us moving forward? And how do we use both that information, so what was transformative and what was a challenge, to look forward for the next 10 years? Activities have included activities that we have included empowered residents to make meetings on their own and share results with us. And we've had online versions of all the surveys as well. We've met with different boards throughout the city, so there's a lot of boards, resident boards within the city. And then there was a Happy City book read. I don't know if anyone attended. I might have even been this year. Man, looking back at the year, right? At the Civic Theater when the author of the book came and gave a talk. That was a really good success, and we had a number of folks in the community that read it or watched the TED Talk, which is a kind of a condensed version of the book. And if you do have time, or you do still have time, but if you have time to read it, I encourage folks to read the book Happy City, and if not, to watch the TED Talk. And if people want the link to that, just let me know and I can share it with them. The TED Talk is a nice distillation of everything in the book, but I am always one to encourage reading. We can move on to the next one. Thank you. Heather, you're on top of it. So, Planet is the next step, and it's kind of divided into the 2 different portions, public meetings and focus groups. So using the information from the Imagine It phase, then, we have reviewed and discussed the information and loosely organized it into goals. We had 5 public meetings across the city, 8 topic-specific meetings and staff, as well as staff and internal conversations. We were asking in those, is this the right goal statement for any one of the goals? And do we have enough information to define the goal and create outcomes? I think this is where it really starts to get into the meat and potatoes of this process too, right? Of distilling down some of the bigger ideas into actual actionable things, just like we did for our work plan recently, right? So it's the same thing, but on a much larger scale, because instead of just us looking at it, we were trying to engage as many people as we could from the 76,000 community members that we have in the city of Kalamazoo. We can move on to the next one, Heather. And this is some of the numbers, right? We made nearly 4,300 points of contact across the community, which I think is awesome. I don't know if folks attended some of these meetings. I know that some folks did, but it's been a while now, so I don't want to say any names because I don't want to get them wrong. But it's been great to see community members coming out and being involved at this level with the planning process. Thank you, Heather. So when we look at the input, we wanted to use lenses that would help us refine this and make the best impact with the information that we collected, right? So this really shows what 3 lenses we use to be able to do that. Data sources, right, are obviously very important. And we also want to, I guess data can feel kind of cold, right? So we want to look then also to some of the community voices to understand how to contextualize some of that data as well. On top of both of those things, we are so blessed, I think, in the city of Kalamazoo to have a lot of staff expertise, subject matter experts that then can kind of bring all of that together. So those are the 3 lenses that we can use to really contextualize everything that we're gathering throughout this process. Imagine Kalamazoo 2035 is inherently a public process, but the work to make it a success happens in both arenas, right? It happens in-house in the planning department and in the city, and it also happens externally. The community vision is going to be crafted by the public and staff. Organization, purpose, and values are developed by staff to set and get shared expectations. Then we have some guiding principles and goals. Kudos to Christina for putting these together to really break this down for us as well. We can move on to the next one. Okay, so vision statement, oops, yes, thank you, Heather. Vision statement, so in 2035, all Kalamazoo neighborhoods are supported by sustainable, responsive, and accessible services that lift people up and bring our community together at every stage of life. This is developed from public comment and staff review. This lifts up neighborhoods. I think it is important to remember that Kalamazoo is a city made up of 22 neighborhoods. It's a lot of neighborhoods, I know. Those individual parts are really important, though. They all have different identities and flavors, if you will, right? We want to make sure that we have core services afforded to everyone, and that everyone means everyone, all people at every stage of life, really encompassing all of our neighborhoods and all the people that live across those neighborhoods. Move on to the next one. Organizational purpose is to provide essential resources, services, and exceptional customer service to ensure the well-being of our residents and the sustainable growth of our city. This is why we do the things that we do. Can move on to the next one, Heather, thank you. And then the organizational values. These are developed from staff conversations that were had at retreats. This internal organization will set us up, and it is set up for implementation of success, and this forms the base from which we work. I'm sure that folks have had a time to look over this, but if we have questions about these, integrity, learning, inclusion, customer service, accountability, teamwork, and safety, truly laying the bedrock for ourselves, but also laying that bedrock for success in the city. This is the bedrock for internal folks to do the right thing. Thank you, Heather. We do not have the full strategic vision document right now, but presenting the framework to you guys hopefully will help you guys understand where we're at and how we're heading towards achieving a happy and healthy city. Again, borrowing some of that language from the Happy City book. So how do we go from engagement to plan to implementation of the plan? So like I was speaking at the beginning, these plans are not just things that are sitting on the shelves. They're being used to implement everything that we're talking about. Excuse me, the engagement. So we've already talked about the Venn diagram that's on the furthest left, right? Taking the data, the community voices, and then best practices, subject matter experts. It's a combination of these lenses that we can go from raw input and the meetings and all those 4,300 input sessions that we have into a comprehensive vision. And the strategic vision is going to be the North Star that we use in the master planning process to make sure that all other plans align with what we are looking for. 2035, the city is spending a lot more time to set up as an we're spending more time to set us up internally to be successful with implementation. This is occurring in a couple of ways. Number one, the government strategy documents, those are going to live with the city manager. This looks at plan actions and thinks about future budgets and capacity and how departments work together to achieve the community vision, and then department plans. These live at the department level. Shorter term plans, so if the government strategy document, which is at the far right of the graph that's on your screens, I keep pointing up there. If that's kind of the 30,000 level view of everything, the department plans are lower, they're shorter term plans, and they're looking at a few years to think through department specific budget and capacity to achieve the community vision. When the government strategy documents and the department plans align, that's an extra layer of organization that helps us hit the ground running and really get the implementation going with the master plan. Just some notes then on this as well with these internal strategies. 15 neighborhood, we are setting up some next steps to have 15 neighborhood meetings to confirm and draft the master plan. Just in case folks don't know too, I want to point out at this point that the process that we've created for the master planning in the city of Kalamazoo at this point, neighborhood plans are added as like amendments to the master plan. I wish that our neighborhood activator was here to give me the exact number of neighborhood plans that we have already had drafted. Those are an opportunity, I think, to lift up the voices at a neighborhood level, like we spoke about. There's 22 of those neighborhoods. Like some of them you might not think about, like Western is a neighborhood, right? That's one that I never thought about before. It's an opportunity to lift up the voices of those citizens, obviously, and give them a legitimate platform for what they think is important to their neighborhood. And then to further legitimize that, it becomes an amendment to the master plan. Thank you, Heather. So the guiding principles, these are like threads that weave their way through all of our work. And I think the biggest change that I do want to point out, and that we've pointed out quite a few times, and it's something that we also echoed, and I echoed it because of these conversations, is that I think before, diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility was something that was addressed on a different level, and we've pulled it back now as the City of Kalamazoo to say that it should permeate, just like we have said, all of the work that is done in the City of Kalamazoo. So that's why we see it now as one of the guiding principles. Sustainability is another one. I had some interesting historic conversations about sustainability and recycling recently that were truly riveting. So I could not believe it. So I digress. They were cool conversations about what we were doing here at the City of Kalamazoo to make efforts going back to the 80s regarding recycling in particular. Digression, and I apologize. Operational excellence, city services and amenities in places that excel at compassionate customer service and delivery. Economic mobility, expanding access to pathways that lead to stability, opportunity, and prosperity for all residents, and continuous engagement. Prioritizing meaningful engagement with residents and community members in decisions that affect their lives. So again, starting from the strategic vision on down to all of their plans and work, these are things that are going to really be through lines for all the things that the City of Kalamazoo does. Thank you much, Heather. So strategic goals, again, on the right, we can see kind of those threads, those inform all these strategic goals. If I can stay on the right slide on my own. So arts and culture and placemaking, community trust and safety, economic vitality, effective city operations, environment, housing, transportation, and youth and family. I think this is a good time where we could, I could lean into what Pam was talking about as well, about where does preservation fit in, and I think that this has always been an interesting one to me. It can probably fit in a lot of different places. What I've noticed a lot of times is like housing is really a prominent place where I notice it when we're looking at practical preservation that it fits into, right? I think that when you look at the housing stock of the City of Kalamazoo, we have a very old housing stock throughout the city, so it's important for us to recognize housing as a priority. It just goes hand in hand, then that preservation should be a priority as well, to making sure that that housing is still there. Looking at the housing goal, accessible and affordable housing for all, strengthens families, neighborhoods, and community life, and I think that's something that we've looked at, especially in the past couple years when we were doing things like, giving the money to community homeworks to make sure that we were doing some non-traditional preservation of those houses to make sure that houses stayed intact, streets stayed intact, blocks stayed intact. So I see alignment with the housing goal there. Sure that there could be other things, other points of alignment. Obviously, effective city operations, we need to have preservation working effectively, and I'm sure environment is another one. That's an argument as old as time, that preservation is obviously a very environmentally friendly practice, and placemaking, I'm sure the argument could be made for as well, but I think that one really does speak to maybe different things, but I don't see why the argument cannot be made as well there. Thank you, Heather. So the strategic vision, like I said, is the citywide guiding document. It informs the master plan and all the other plans. Adopting the strategic vision, the presentation of a draft at the City Commission will be next. Planning Commission, a presentation of the draft will need to go to the City Commission. The Planning Commission will also have a presentation of it, and we are shooting for February approval of a final document of the strategic vision. So design it, another one of the steps that we talked about, or that was on the timeline above. Master plan engagement, the design it phase is master plan engagement to create strategies to implement our goals and metrics to keep us on track. So the strategic vision forms the base of the conversation in this phase. Looks at how the goals and outcomes play out in each of our neighborhoods. Focus groups this time around focus on strategies and metrics building from their conversations on goals and outcomes in spring of '24, right? Again, and I don't mean to beat the dead horse here, but this is what we're talking about as well, to move from the abstract ideas into the quantifiable realm, right? We want to look at concrete things. We will always have online opportunities for folks to be able to participate in this engagement as well, and hopefully some more book clubs, the Imagine Kalamazoo Reads opportunities. Again, this is our timeline just to leave out with. This is the last slide, but just so you can see where we are right now and where we're headed. Questions from anyone?
What is something from the Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 that like is in place now that we could point to? Like this was an outcome of that plan.
So people always put me on the spot, man. I think that the neighborhood plans is something that we can really look to. That was not something that was a big push from the 2025 master plan, was having the neighborhood plans. So examples, Northside, Edison, Vine, Oakwood, Stewart, hope I'm not getting any of these wrong. Those are beefy documents that, again, distill down even further and drill down to say these are what these neighborhoods want to see. I know it might feel like I'm answering, like, what did a plan do? It made another plan, but then some of those goals were able to get accomplished on that level too. I could give specific examples, but if I had time to look into them, I don't necessarily have them off the top of my head right now.
And our main or a main tie-in for our commission would be our request that all the grant applicants conform to these plans.
I mean, I think that's huge, and I think that goes back to the strategic vision, like the threads that we were looking at, right? The guiding principles. I think that there's, I guess I'll speak for myself. I think that we really align and resonate with those guiding principles. So DEIA, sustainability, operational excellence, economic mobility, and continuous engagement. While some of them might be more readily apparent than others, right? So we might not always be thinking about economic mobility or operational excellence. By saying that we want the grantees to be able to align with this, it does make sure that we're moving forward on a common path, that the HPC, which is a subcommittee of the City of Kalamazoo, is moving forward with a common path, that the city is on the 30,000 foot level, if you will. Other questions?
So was this presentation a part of your duty?
Every subcommittee or committee within the city is being given the presentation to be kept abreast of what's going on with the master planning process at this time.
What has your involvement been in as your position with the city?
I've been to a lot of these meetings so far with folks where we've been getting some of the input. I don't want to say a lot, make it sound like I'm a superstar. I think I've been to 4 of them where we're collecting input, facilitating the conversation, I suppose, taking notes on what we heard from those meetings, acting more of a fly on the wall. I would say I'm not trying to guide the conversation in any capacity, but being there to hear what folks are saying. We have recognized, I think, as well, in conversations that I've had with my colleagues, that there is an opportunity to include preservation in this as well, but it needs to be obviously a concerted and meaningful effort if that is going to be the case, right? Not just to be fluff and lip service.
So are you asking something of this body currently?
No. I think that truly I do want to let folks know that this is very high level, and we are still at a very high level place right now in the development of the master plan.
And the next read is not selected yet?
The next read has not been selected yet, no.
Anyone else? Is there another part of your report?
Just as we have now come into December, I want to thank you all for giving me time every month, except for the months that we didn't have the meetings, to serve on this commission. Your efforts are not going unnoticed, and I really appreciate everyone showing up and doing the work for this. Thank you for writing reports. Thank you for meeting with subcommittees, excuse me. It really is appreciated, and none of the work that we do here would be possible without you guys, so I hope that you all do recognize that. I think we made progress again this year, and I think we're continuing on the right trend each year, right? We're moving in the right direction, I think. Making more solid work plans and doing good work in the community as it relates to historic preservation. Next year, I hope that we have another great year, and I hope we continue to move that needle even further with the work that we do. So yeah, just a thank you to all of you for showing up and being here and doing this work, especially as volunteers. I know that we're taking time away from you all and your families and things that you could be doing otherwise, so I truly, truly appreciate you showing up. Appreciate you showing up as well, Heather, to be able to come here and take the minutes for us, and thank you, Pam, for coming to every meeting as well, and every meeting that you were able to attend. And I don't mean to sound reductive when I say it, but showing up really is half the battle, so I appreciate you guys being here and showing up and standing up for preservation in the city of Kalamazoo. Hope that everyone has a wonderful holiday season as we move into it, and a wonderful new year as well. I don't think be seeing you guys until the new year. I'll see some of you before the new year. I'm positive of it. Yeah, safe travels if you're traveling, and have fun. Feel free to reach out if you guys have questions with anything. Or as we look towards the January meeting, but also take some time to recharge the batteries as well. So just to thank you to you all, and I hope you guys have a wonderful break. Hopefully you guys all get a break as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, and you as well. Any other commissioner comments this evening?
I do. That was a great closing to the meeting, so I apologize for shifting it back to order. Still, there we go. I'm going to send it over because I wasn't able to send it to get into the meeting packet, but I'll be brief since it's 7:30. Just a little overview of the work plan for the historic tours subcommittee with me, Fred, and Dusty. We have broken it into 4 goals to be completed by the end of the year, completing 2 tours roughly, and kind of working on that, getting that squared away. We'll definitely hopefully have a lot more ready to go for you all on discussion points in January as we start to discuss what those tours will start to look like. The work plan draft should have gotten to you all through email in the last minute or so. So feel free to look over that. Obviously, I'm not expecting questions off of it right now. It's short notice, but just getting that out for you all to look at and to anticipate what is to come in January.
Somebody just got it.
There it is. Thank you, Melissa.
All right, we will look for that. Anyone else? No? All right. As you said, happy holidays. Thank you. Have a good evening. Be safe.